All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Chit Chat and Chill. I'm going to pause and speak a little slowly as people start to join. And maybe I'll just introduce our topic for the evening. Tonight, myself and Aunt and Santino are going to talk a little bit about cancel culture. As usual, it just continues this never ending um, cancel canceling of people, of very random people. Even we've now gone into cartoon characters. We're just going to talk a little bit about that tonight and how ridiculous it is. Um, so the latest cancel culture victim or victims, we'll start with Dr. Seuss. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about your thoughts on the fact that Dr. Seuss is being quote unquote canceled? I mean, some of his books, I guess, are being pulled from different, from being sold on different venues, different websites, etc. And Dr. Seuss obviously goes way back with a lot of us to like Born Day. And so for me, that was very emotional. I was like it's Dr. Seuss. It's just a bunch of rhymes. Like, do we really have to overthink this and adjust and pull books and do all of the things that come with cancel culture? That was my gut reaction. But what did you guys think about the Dr. Seuss fiasco?
I actually thought it was stupid. Because like if they do so the research, from my understanding, if correct me if I'm wrong, the research about Dr. Seuss is the guy that wrote it had already been doing what was it like books. We found it. So he had already been doing like political cartoons that included racial slurs and that depicted black people as savages in grass skirts, Asian people with slits for eyes, and Middle Eastern characters wearing turbans and riding camels. Like, so in college, he wrote a minstrel show and performed it as a blackface. Okay, so with that being said, they knew this was going on. They condoned it for this long, and now you want to get like I just think like it's just to save face. Like they knew this was going on. You knew what he wrote. Like he ain't that stuff. That stuff ain't changing. Like it knew. Like they knew what he was doing.
But do you think that it is worth the effort to change those books now for the new generations that are coming so that they don't see those images and feel affected by them? I don't know if it'd be offended, but affected. I mean, so one of his characters in the what was the book? And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street. So that was a book that they said was, I think, his first book. He wrote it while observing something on a boat or something, and so he was just drawing what he was seeing, but obviously with his own biases. So there was a yellow character who was a Chinaman who was eating with sticks, and he had like a long braid. Um, so, if you're showing your kids that book, would that be offensive? Like, do you think that it's good to change that now?
You know,
Those
I
images?
I think there's a place for it. And for my it's like they're not like canceling like all of Dr. Seuss's book. It's just like
Right.
6 books, 5 or 6 books.
Yeah.
And they're just ceasing publication. I don't know if my issue is I don't like the ceasing of the publication. You know, and that's what I mean. I think there's a place for him. There's a place for those books in the same way that there's a place for, Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf.
Mm.
There's a place for this type of media. Um, you know, one. Well, you guys are familiar with The Birth of a Nation, the movie,
Hmm.
and I don't and
Mm.
I don't mean the one that came out last year or 2 years
You
ago.
mean the one that came out long?
I'm talking about, yeah, the W.D. Griffin, D.W. Griffin, I think his name. Still today regarded as one of the greatest movies of all time from a technical aspect, but totally glorifies the KKK. The whole movie is just like the KKK being like the heroes of this movie. But from a historical standpoint, from a film history standpoint, one of the most important films in cinema history, because of like just the way the movie was made. And my point is that, I'm gonna go and bring attention to this. This thing's canceled in a week, right? But but there's a place for it. I think I like what Disney did recently on Disney Plus with Dumbo, Peter Pan, a couple of other movies where it took them off of children profiles. So remove them as an option to stream from the children's profiles. But they're still readily available to stream on standard like adult profiles.
So why did they do that? Was it just because of different
Well,
content
because
that they
there are. Have you guys watched Peter Pan like
not
recently?
recently?
Yeah,
The
we did a
cartoon?
we went and we what? No, I'm talking about the old like. Well, I forgot what year it was, 1930 something, I think maybe. Anyway, I actually watched it recently, and I mean it's pretty racist, it's pretty misogynistic. You guys should give it a look. I'm not okay with like censoring it, so I'm not okay with like Disney going over there and like digitally changing any of the images, constructing some of the scenes to remove those images. Completely against that. I know Disney has some controversy where, in that I think it's that movie Splash with Tom Hanks, where
Mhm.
they CGI'd longer hair over is it Daryl Hannah in that movie or who's in that
Yeah.
movie? Like they CGI'd longer hair over her bare butt as she like went back into the water or something like that, and there was some controversy. And the truth is I'm against that. Like I'm against changing like that media.
So
It
to you, it's
already
more the history is already
you
there.
need to preserve you need to preserve things the way they are within the context that they were created.
Mhm.
um it's the one of the most important things about art,
Mhm.
when you're looking at when you look at the way any art is made over all of our years on earth. It's all made within the context of the timeline that it was made during. And that includes anything that's happened that's made now, and even if it makes people uncomfortable. I mean, you look at some of the old like the old classical paintings and the images that they portray, um, violence, sexual violence. We're not talking about canceling those things right now.
Right.
But if you go and you actually take time to look at that, there are some tough subject matters being portrayed.
Yeah. I
And
think it's
that,
audience too, though, because you got kids reading the books, like
yeah,
you
and
said, they get off
so
the
that
kids
comes
from.
down, to parents the parents need to be held accountable for what they're allowing their children to have access to. You can't go and punish every single citizen on earth over this idea that they may read something that they don't agree with,
Right.
but it's the responsibility of a parent, to present that information, present that those subjects, in a way that their children can understand it.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
I don't disagree. I feel like that kind of goes with everything that we're talking about tonight. I was just gonna say, so is Lola Bunny art? And how do you guys feel about all the censorship that's going on with, I guess, the whole Space Jam remake, with Lola Bunny being less sexualized, Pepe Le Pew being completely pulled out of the movie, and Speedy Gonzalez questionable? What do you guys think about the other cartoons? Are these art? I mean, this is a Space Jam movie.
I mean, this is my
so
childhood too. It's when you fell in love with the Space Jam 11s. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I just feel like it. I think I've gotten to a point where I realize you can't please nobody. So if you show the movie, you know, you complain about her being sexualized and things like that. They change her to make her stronger. They want her to make her look more tough. Okay. You do that, then you touch on the other side. So at what point we gonna watch the damn movie and just enjoy it for what it is?
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
I
you
agree.
know,
I think it's silly.
um, you know, I- my issue, the Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers cartoons is just it's its own beast. Because those cartoons were made for adults. When they were originally made, they were made for adults. They were screened before adult movies. They contained adult content for the time period, political commentary. Those images were never at the time geared towards kids. They
But
started syndicating it towards like families in the 60s, starting in the
and
60s, I want to
Space
say.
Jam definitely was, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. And from the 60s through, I mean, to the time, when we were kids in the, 80s and 90s, that stuff was the same content was still being streamed. I mean, it actually, allowed us to like watch the same content that like our parents watched, and it was actually like family time to enjoy these things.
and
Me and my dad
and we
still watch it to
yeah,
this day.
we still watch it. Yeah, I was gonna say they're still out
Yeah,
there, and it's funny
yeah,
because
to
it
this
catches
day.
the girls' eyes too, and they watch Tom and Jerry, and it's funny because they just remade that movie, and we didn't even realize that that was gonna happen. But sometimes when they're
Yeah,
watching Tom and Jerry, I'm like, there's no way they know what the hell's going on here. It's like way over
yeah,
their heads,
yeah.
but they
You
still love it.
know, but with Looney Tunes, when you're talking about like Pepe Le Pew back in, when that character was created, it was still geared towards an adult audience. It was.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is. Speedy Gonzales, adult audience. Lola Bunny is the exception because Lola Bunny was created specifically for Space Jam, which was for a kids movie. What's interesting to note is the meme that was circulating, causing all this controversy. The '90s depiction of Lola was actually a fan rendered image of it that was her womanly characteristics were actually more accentuated in that picture that was being shared around. Her original '90s character model was not as curvy as the meme that was being shared around social media.
And
But
I like the tweet I saw where the guy was like, what's the issue? Is the issue that Lola Bunny was over sexualizing her attire, or was it Bugs Bunny's reaction to her, or just in general people's reaction to her as a sexualized cartoon character, whatever the hell that means, to the point where they felt like they had to change it. I feel like it's just silly, but whatever.
That lets you know people's minds really do be messed up. So you,
Yeah, but it's a cartoon. Like I get it, and I just feel like it's an exaggeration and it's a cartoon, and like we were saying earlier, it's art and there's nothing more to it than that. I feel like when you try to say, oh well, this is a depiction of how people see women and blah, like, or like you were saying before, it's just a movie, it's just a funny, it's supposed to be exaggerated, it's supposed to be this and that, it's a cartoon, it's trying
mm,
to live within the realm of what Looney Tunes used to be, with a new character. That's it, there's nothing more to it, so you don't
yeah,
overthink.
I just think that because we are in the time that we're in and certain topics are coming to the forefront about different things, that people's mind are on those topics. So now they're looking for different areas to point at and to because their mind is triggered. When I was watching Looney Tunes, I thought nothing about that.
Me
I
either.
didn't think I didn't think, but I think because now certain subjects are coming up, certain topics are being talked about, that we're now looking at things from a different lens and not from the point of it's just art. Is it
yeah,
just let's just go and enjoy this movie, just take it for what it is.
yeah.
Like
So
Do you want
so
to read
there's
that
just
comment,
yeah,
Sergio?
yeah. It says
That was
era
it.
pieces. Era pieces such as old school sitcoms and cartoons should be untouched. I feel like there is a statute of limitations on that content. It was era appropriate. Will I? Will break glass. I agree with that. I agree with that. They shouldn't be touched. They shouldn't be edited for content. But there should be some responsibility about what content is being pushed towards a general audience. Um, you know, you know, put it in an Adult Swim type of situation.
Mm,
If you're going to show those type of things, or somehow, but showing it at three o'clock in the afternoon when you got home from school, every day,
right,
day in, day out, that's you're catering to a particular, what your market is there. You know who you're
right.
you're marketing towards. It's interesting. Tom and Jerry. I saw a couple comments. So Juan saying Tom and Jerry introduced me into jazz music at an early age. Totally true. And then Aaron had an earlier talking about the Mammy character. There we go. Tom and Jerry, Flintstones. Those shows were actually geared more towards an all ages audience versus the Warner Brothers cartoons, which are geared more towards adults. Interesting with the Mammy character is she actually really only came out in like maybe 3 or 4 episodes. They just seem to be like the episodes. Yeah, they seem to be like episodes that tend to, we're talking like classic episodes, that she's in. It's like 3 or 4 of them, and they're definitely like 2 of those are in the first like 3 or 4 episodes of the series, like where they have
Hella
that character.
Hella inappropriate, but to your point, it's history, and it was what it was, and I get not necessarily showing it like you said right now at daytime hours or whatever, but to change it or edit it or pull it is almost too much.
It's actually, in my opinion, it's socially and historically irresponsible to pretend that this stuff doesn't exist.
So Pepe Le Pew, we kind of touched on him and then went back. I do want to jump back to Pepe Le Pew because we're still talking about these characters in Space Jam and him being pulled.
From what I read, they said they shot the scene in 2019, and they said they was gonna pull him months ago.
Right.
So initially, you weren't going. For me, I take it as you weren't going. We gonna leave him in there. Then things come to an up, where you like maybe we shouldn't leave him in there.
Yeah, I think we rewatched it and was like, oh no, we can't play that these days.
Yeah, like my thing, and I think that's like how I feel about it. Like it, like showed up. Like at what point we gonna just take things for what it is? Like you watching a movie, like it's a character. Like I didn't think about nothing about rape culture when I was watching it.
Yeah, I don't ever think about that either. I mean, but again, I'm always just like what I want. I was gonna say what I want my kids to watch it. I don't think kids get that deep into it the way that we imagine. Maybe teenagers, maybe.
Yeah.
But
at that time, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you off. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say, obviously, Pepe Le Pew. I feel like when I think about what I used to watch, I cringe now, and that's just natural. That's not me thinking about cancel culture or wanting to not see it in the movie or whatever. If I seen it in the movie, I probably would have laughed from a nostalgia perspective. But when I just think about it, it does make me cringe because what is he doing? He's chasing this female skunk around, and she's basically like, "No, get away from me." He's like, "No, I mean, and like literally super rapey, like not okay." But again, I'm like, do I care enough for him to be pulled out of a movie? Would I have raised the stink when I'm in the movie theater watching it? Absolutely not. Like, no.
And I guess that's the thing is who's going to be outraged about it? Like, will it have caused what kind of controversy would it have caused if he would have made it into the movies?
Gen Z is different.
They probably did the smartest. They probably did the smartest thing, honestly. With this, with Pepe, honestly, I don't know, like, you have to look at the audience that movie's going to be for. I remember last week we talked about Coming to America, and I was I was just talking about how much of a family film it was. Compared to the original, the first movie, and how much of the second movie was a family film in itself. And just thinking back at some of the jokes that were in the first one, they just do not have a place in that type of movie.
Right.
Does a modern Space Jam have a place for a Pepe Le Pew
No,
like
probably not.
joke.
But Speedy
No.
Gonzalez, right? So we were talking earlier about what's the difference. How do you pull Pepe Le Pew? You're making all these tweaks, you're adjusting for people to not be offended, and then you leave in Speedy Gonzalez because, well, you talk about pulling him, and then his fan base or the comedian who will be voicing him in the movie, Gabriel Iglesias' fan base basically says, no, we want to keep him in the movie. Are you seriously going to pull him? We're not offended at all by his character.
I mean, the thing is that when we're talking about Pepe Le Pew versus Speedy Gonzalez, we're talking about a caricature versus like someone that's committing sexual violence.
Like, it's kind of different.
Yeah.
It's still can be seen as racist, I guess is my point, and offensive. Not sexually abusive, but offensive, maybe. Not to me or some of the people who are pushing
Yeah, I get that, and I guess I can't necessarily comment, on that, in terms of how people should or should not feel about him. But I just don't think that the comparison between Speedy and Pepe are, you know, apples to
the
apples
same.
here. Yeah, um, uh, you know, this is just one of those things where if no one's gonna complain about it, no one's gonna. It's a squash
That's
deal,
what, but that's what's so annoying about this cancel culture.
unless like
There are no
a bunch
rules.
of yeah.
And that's what bugs me about the next person, Eminem. Because if you're looking at a rule book for cancel culture, you would think to yourself, yeah, this guy this guy qualifies. There's every person you could possibly offend, he's probably offended. And
Yeah,
yes, his millennial fan base is trying to stop him from being canceled by Gen Z. So what are you guys' thoughts on Eminem and the lack of him being canceled? So they tried to cancel him. Gen Z listened to some of his songs and went, ugh. And then Eminem's fans said, no, whoa, back up. You don't know nothing. How does this apply? It drives me nuts. It's
I
like,
mean, have they canceled Chris Brown yet? Because I mean, M did that song with Rihanna. M did that song with Rihanna. That's and of all the crazy crap that Eminem has said in his songs since what 1998, 99, all the crazy crap that this guy has said in his songs, they're worried about this tie it to the bed and set the house on fire.
And he was saying that in
a song with Rihanna, who is a survivor of DV.
Right.
But
the whole purpose of that song was to raise awareness on abusive relationships and how ridiculous they are to be in. So
yes,
they were both playing a role in that video in that song.
And it's just crazy to me, But we're not canceling Chris Brown. They actually punched her in the face. Why are we not having that conversation?
He was canceled for a little while. To be fair, Chris Brown was canceled for a little while after it initially happened. And,
I mean, from what 2020, 2019 have told me is that there's no coming back from stuff like that. That's it. You're done.
Yeah, that's true. But again, if you go back in time, it was a little different. And it's crazy because even I wonder how that Rihanna Oprah interview would be portrayed today, because she was kind of defending him in that interview. Not defending him, but she clearly felt bad for him.
To be honest with you guys, I think the Eminem thing is hilariously amusing to me. Like that guy was sitting there saying that Trump supporters shouldn't be fans of his music. Well, have fun with what's going on now, motherfucker.
You mean with trying to be canceled, or people trying to cancel him?
Like, you know what? I don't feel that bad for you just because of that alone.
The irony. And the people who are fighting cancel culture are typically conservatives. I think Eminem fans, though, are across the board Democrats and Republicans, or conservatives and liberals. Trying not to get political about it, but I cannot sit here and tell you why I enjoy Eminem music, but to explain it in the same way we've been explaining it. time it was fine. It was our way of being angry. Not all of us were teenagers, but being angry and young, and it spoke to us at the time. And there's a lot of music that if you listen to it today, people would be really offended that some people are saying, "Oh, this is the best song of all time." So it's not just him. And I think Gen Z is struggling with an issue where they just are easily offended by things that came before them. I sound like the old person.
I just think I think it's just gotten to the point where it's no matter what you do, you cannot. No matter you put somewhere, everybody opinions are like assholes. Everybody got one. So no matter what you do, you can't please nobody. Like why did they care? This was like before their time. Like Eminem music, like it was before their time. So why would you care about something that we can relate to, that we can, talk about, and that we entertain? Like why? You don't even know what was going on here.
I don't think they care. I think his music is still out. He's still making music. He's still winning awards and stuff, and they just want it to be done because they don't like it. So do you want to put up a few more of those comments? There were a few that we didn't really talk about, and there was one where I was actually going to ask more. Well, Erin had said that she didn't think Chris Brown should be canceled. I think that's interesting. I'm wondering why. I mean, I guess if we're talking about we've talked about before where, what should constitute something where you're actually canceled. And I think we had talked about like R. Kelly qualified. Mm-hmm. So if R. Kelly qualifies, is Chris Brown just like in between? I don't know.
I don't know. It's like if you end up in
Bill
jail,
Cosby.
If you end up in jail over something that you did, like maybe you should be
convicted.
Like maybe it should be canceled. Like if they found you guilty, then at least in the court of law, like if they found you guilty, then it means you likely did it. If we have if we want to have faith in our justice system, that's pretty much where I would draw that line.
Yeah, because if it's just alleged, that's what we've talked about before, where it gets really. Come on. OMG, take that off the screen.
Who put that on there?
Not okay.
Let's be clear, people.
No,
it's never,
no
never,
woman,
never.
Never. Agreed.
Yeah, no.
I lost my train of thought. What was the other comments that I was trying to comment on? There were a few others. I think someone had said, let me look. So I liked this one. The point of an artist practicing free speech in America is that we're able to practice free speech in America.
That makes sense.
Then,
but it's absolutely true. It's
yeah.
Like if not in America, then where the hell else are you going to be able to do it?
Right. And there's other countries. Yeah, there's other countries where they try through music to start revolutions. Like it's not like offensive music or anything like that, but there's other countries where they can't even talk about their government. And they're just trying to start a revolution through music, and they can't even do that. So in America, you should be able to do whatever you want. And I get it, that's not always the case, but legally. But I agree with you. If not here, then where?
Yeah. It's probably just, I don't know, more this issue where people equate words with like violence and the threat of violence.
Right. Exactly. And I know this is kind of extreme, but I'm not even going to bring it up because I don't want to I feel like it's always the go-to is Hitler, but it would be a quote from Ricky Gervais. So I'm not even going to bring it up. But I guess I'm just going to because we're already talking about it. But Ricky Gervais, I recently had said on one of those comedians in cars getting coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, he had said, if Hitler had only talked about what he actually did, then that's different. But then he actually did it. So I feel like it's just a completely different thing when you're actually doing evil versus just words. And words should be protected. Like, yes, they're evil and people should be on watch if they're saying cruel and ridiculous things, but being canceled is something completely different.
Yeah, this becomes like Minority Report, just pre-crime. You're guilty of pre-crime. You're guilty of thought crime.
It's ridiculous. And I think that's kind of where I wanted to end this live, was just around the idea that this is what I put in the title, right? Was the latest cancel culture victims. When will it end? And it's like literally, I feel like it's not going to end. And I just, all I want to say is people really should just be on edge when they see things being censored or canceled or pulled from shelves because it's making people uncomfortable. And just deal with being uncomfortable. It's art of the time, and you know, it's only so long before they try to cancel something that you enjoy or that you are completely against. And I know this is going to sound a little extreme, but I really, it would like after a few years of this and you're just numb to it, it would not surprise me if their end game is just cancel. Not only is like cancel the Bible, right? You already have stories out there being twisted, and you got, um, I'm not even gonna go there, but
You don't.
the next thing you know, they're canceling the Bible, and then what? You know, you just got to pay attention because it's not. You can't just ignore it and ignore it because the next thing you know they're going to be canceling something big because they've canceled all these little things and they're working it out and seeing how people react to this and that, and the next thing you know it's like our very foundation for this country that they're coming after. And it's just a dangerous slope, slippery slope. It's not what we stand for. Sorry.
So I saw LaShawn said they were talking about canceling GT. I know that was a Chicago thing or Illinois thing in particular because of the carjackings and the violence. Canceling Grand Theft Auto.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah. I know that, like I said, I think that's an Illinois or Chicago thing or Illinois thing in particular.
It's an Illinois thing. Kind of.
I mean, you know, like I said, you know, that all goes on to the parents. I'm sorry.
To an extent, I agree. To an extent, I agree. And yeah.
Stores are not selling those video games to kids. They shouldn't be. Most of that's against store policy to sell those M-rated games to children under 17. So it's their parents, it's an adult buying it for them. That falls on the parents, you know?
Yeah.
Do you want to read that comment?
Henry Ford is a perfect example of deeds being more important than words. His contributions to the world far outweigh his words. He was a racist who literally helped defeat Nazis and change the way the world operates. Yeah, I mean, imagine we canceled all assembly lines in the world or in the United States. You know, actually, that sounds like something the Democrats would do. We gotta cancel all the assembly lines in the United States, outsource those jobs to China and Mexico. But hey, we don't have racist assembly lines anymore. That sounds like some crazy stuff the Dems would try to do. But yeah, I mean it's a good point. You know, like I said, we always have to look at everything in the context of history, and you know, especially when we're talking about you know, in this case, Henry Ford, we're going back to even George Washington and people before him. I mean, it was just different times. It sucks. I know, people. It really sucks that it was the way it was. But the important thing is that we've changed since then. I would be very concerned if some of these ideas and these ideals that existed during those times were still prevalent today.
That's true.
You know, I would be very concerned, and clearly there's been progress. Clearly it may not be as fast as some people want, but at least in America, you know, 250 years is still not a very long time to exist as the type of country that this country is. It's still the American experiment. Well, we're still figuring it all out.
But don't be so sensitive. Also,
yeah,
the things of the past.
No kidding. You know, that's just Looney Tunes. There's been some crazy stuff.
Oh yes, I've watched
throughout the years.
I mean, that Tom and Jerry, those old episodes. Sometimes I'm like, what in the?
Oh,
it was a different time.
You guys should check out the Tex Avery cartoons. Are you guys familiar? I'm familiar with like Droopy. You guys remember Droopy?
Wait, what?
You guys remember the character Droopy? He's like
from,
a little dog. He's a Tex Avery. He was
I think
produced
so.
like a bunch of cartoons back in like the 30s and 40s, and those cartoons, holy crap! I mean, there is literally this guy's Droopy. I don't
So
know if you guys
familiar.
remember Droopy
No,
at
I
all.
can't see your
Can't
phone.
see it. No, it's
Droopy
not
dog.
working.
I feel
There
like
you
I know.
go.
Oh, him. I know, buddy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
Droopy.
know what you're
Yeah.
talking
Okay.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Tex Avery, and man, those cartoons. I mean, there's literally an episode on in his cluster of cartoons called Uncle Tom's Cabana. uh, it's and real talk. I mean, we're talking like Tex Avery's like with the Red Hot Riding Hood. I'm sure you guys remember the image of like the girl with the short red dress and stuff, and the wolf
Oh
that
my
whistles
god.
and howls and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
That's all Tex Avery. All of that would be cancelable by
Yeah.
today's standards.
And they might
Not
still be on the list.
well,
So
not streaming, not readily available everywhere. Like you can only get that stuff in the collector's market.
gotcha.
But that's my point. It's in a collector's market.
It's
It's
not gone. It's
the
not
same
being
with Pepe
pulled.
same with Pepe Le Pew. Um, in our society, in our day and age, there's no place for a new Pepe Le Pew
Right.
cartoon unless you're
Agreed.
gonna go and completely change the type of character that he is and what he does. There's just no place for it.
Yeah.
But you
I
know what?
100% agree.
His cartoons will sell like hotcakes on a special edition Blu-ray format. Warner Brothers, make it happen. I need to add that to my collection.
No, it's horrible. Okay. Anyway, that's really all I have. Do you guys have any final words before we sign
No,
off?
that's it. Thanks everybody for listening and joining us, and thank you for your
Yep.
comments.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have a good night.